Brad, what do you think the problem was tonight? Was it fatigue, frustration? What was the problem?
We laid an 8-minute egg at the end of the second quarter, and it was just couldn't overcome. I mean, we were up 38-32, and then I think they went on a 31-3 run. Offense was bad, defense was bad, everything was poor, but that's what it boiled down to. I mean, it was an 8-minute, we laid an 8-minute egg is the way I look at it. That's enough against those guys when they're shooting it like that to really hurt you.
One thing Avery had talked about the other night was people getting a little down on themselves after missing shots. Is that sort of continuing, guys?
I didn't think any, you know, obviously I don't know what we shot. What did we shoot? Obviously not very good, but it really wasn't even the shooting. I mean, they got to be able to believe in their work, and, you know, we're not harping on each and every shot that they take and everything else. And so you just have to step up and shoot it confidently and believe that the next one's going in. You know, there are times certainly where you don't feel as good as other times, but at that moment, make plays for other people. But I think the biggest thing was we tried to dribble through traffic in that 8-minute stretch, and it was like we were just dribbling into 5 guys, 10 arms, and everybody was in the paint because we weren't making shots. And so, you know, we just kept fumbling the ball and turning it over, and those runouts hurt. And then they got going shooting the ball, and Lynn was excellent for them in that stretch as well.
Brad, you've been talking about the important thing being that you're playing well going into the playoffs. Will one good one on Wednesday accomplish that for you, or?
Well, I think that's a really good question. I think, do you have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted is the question that has to be answered. You know, are we able to adjust on the fly? Is everybody physically ready to play and ready to play at a good level and ready to compete at a good level for extended time? And all of those things. Hey, we didn't play very well in the fourth quarter in Atlanta or tonight, so we'll see. We'll see. I do know this: the everything resets after Wednesday, right? And so, you know, obviously we do want to be playing better on Wednesday night than we played tonight. That starts at practice tomorrow. It'll be nice to have a practice. It'll be nice to get out there a little bit, and you know, we'll see what happens.
Brad, you just touched on how things do reset this weekend for the playoffs, but playing a team like Charlotte and knowing there's potential where you might see them in the playoffs, what impact, if any, does a game like this have, maybe from a psychological standpoint for your team?
You'd have to ask them. We beat them twice, and they pounded us once. So I don't know that there's an exact answer to that. I mean, I think that, you know, obviously when you get beat like that, nobody's happy, but you know, they also have responded well in the past from tough nights. And so I don't anticipate that we won't respond with a great competitive effort on Wednesday. Now we're playing a really good team, so we'll see how that shakes itself out. But, you know, hey, this is part of competitive sports, right? You get your butt kicked, and, you know, do you get back up or not? And it's not ideal to not be playing as well, like you said, Steve, but we'll talk about what we need to fix, whether it's personnel or whether it's, you know, some things we're doing, and we'll go from there.
Brad, they scored 70 points in the second and third quarters. The defense got off to a slow start against Milwaukee and Atlanta. What's going on with the defense, and is there something you can fix or rectify?
I think there's a couple of things that we can do a little bit differently, but it's, you know, that's obviously unacceptable, and we'll have to play a lot better than that on Wednesday to have a chance to win.
Brad, just following up on what Steve was talking about, do you think it's a bigger deal to be playing well going into the playoffs than worrying about or even being, you know, watching where you are in the standings and who you're playing?
I'm not really paying attention to that part. You know, I think that obviously that shakes itself out no matter what. I mean, we'll have a better idea after tonight. Obviously, we still, you know, control some things in that regard with where we are. But I think the bottom line is we just have to focus on what we can control and focus on playing basketball and playing basketball the right way. And for whatever reason, The defensive slippage is a concern in the last couple of games. But I'm equally concerned about fumbling the ball around in the second quarter,
Can I
to be
follow up
candid. Yeah,
real
sure.
quick, Brad? Did you change your message at all during that 33-3 run, or at all when you were calling a couple of timeouts? Did you try to mix it up, try different things?
We said the same thing that we talked about starting the game, and that was we've really got to impact the ball defensively because they're a shooting team. They're a great shooting team. They've been a great shooting team all year, 5th in the league, and they really got going against us. So that's why you can't make them comfortable from the get-go. Even Batum gets a couple of easy ones early, and now all of a sudden guys get comfortable. And then Lynn got really going. So I think the biggest thing is that's number one. And then number two was we just talked about offensively. You got to drive it, touch the paint, and kick it out because all 5 guys are going to be in there, and we didn't do it. So, it's part of the reason why they were running to the other end and shooting with nobody guarding them because we couldn't set our defense because we were turning it over.
Coach, it's convenient to target faults after a game like this, and I'm not, at all. With Isaiah, are you Atlanta tonight? Are the teams bunching up on him now that more so to?
I don't think any more so than New Orleans or Milwaukee before that, or even as you go further back into the Portland game or Golden State game. So I think he's seen his fair share of attention for sure. These guys weren't necessarily like trapping pick and rolls like some of those other teams were. They were back, but all 4 guys were back, and all 4 guys were awaiting his drive. The only time we were really spacing them out well is when they had to fly at Kelly and Jonas at the 3-point line when we were smaller, a little bit more skilled.
Brad, you've seen Kemba both in college and now incremental growth here in the league. What do you point to his growth, especially this year, just kind of seeing him on film and in person?
Well, obviously, I think the number one thing you point to is he shoots 39% from 3. And that's, when you factor in the difficulty of shots that those guys take at the point guard position, it's really an outstanding number. And his ability to get downhill has always been excellent. But the thing I've always loved about him and the thing that always has stuck out to me ever since I saw him play AAU ball as a kid was that guy competes. Like, he competes. There aren't many nights where he doesn't really, really have it at a high emotional level. And certainly through 82 games, I'm sure there's a few, but not very many. I think he and Isaiah are very similar in that regard, and both really good players.